2023 has been an incredible year for games. Everything from horror games to turn-based combat to puzzle games to action games, 2023 had it all. So let's break down the top 20. What's up nerds and welcome to InGame. I'm Hoops4 and today I am going to break down my picks for the top 20 games in this incredible year. Obviously this year has had a crazy roster of games to pick from, and this has been a tough list to make as there have been so many top tier games. All the games here I have played, but I haven't gotten to play everything this year, so be sure to let me know your list and thoughts down in the comments below. This is just my opinion, but I would love to hear yours because this year has been just simply incredible, and I want to hear what the community has to say, maybe for a future list. We got a lot to break down, so let's go ahead and enter gaming.
Enter Gaming.
Number 20, Lords of the Fallen. Coming in our number 20 spot, Lords of the Fallen is a sequel/reboot of Lords of the Fallen 2014, and it has a great concept, with only good execution. The team behind Lords of the Fallen really cares about their work. I have never actually seen as many consistent patches to a game after release as with this game. We are talking several patches in the first couple of weeks, all working to improve the quality of the game and listening to player feedback. The concept of this Souls-like is great, as you traverse the main world and the Umbral world, each having its own difficulty and sets of enemies, although Umbral has its own difficult twists to make it higher risk and higher reward. The bosses are a mixed bag, and is where most of my criticism lies, along with some gameplay issues and some pretty ridiculous bugs, but a lot of those have been ironed out. Honestly, I still had fun with this game, and credit to the devs for all the patches, and with that in mind, it just barely snags the number 20 spot. Number 19, Viewfinder. Viewfinder is a unique puzzle game that floored me with the mind-bending solutions, taking flat pictures and using them to manipulate the world into 3D spaces. It was such a neat idea that makes up the main gameplay loop. Some of these puzzles require out-of-the-box thinking that had me trying lots of different things to try and find a solution. It was just a great time. It had a solid story, and ended up really meaning a lot more than I thought it would. And honestly, it ended up being one of the best puzzle games of the year, and it takes the number 19 spot. Number 18, Wo Long Fallen Dynasty. A Souls-like more akin to Sekiro, Wo Long Fallen Dynasty makes an impact with its fluid and fast gameplay. While the story ended up being longer and more complex than I wanted, so much so that I ended up skipping most of it in favor of more gameplay, the fighting loop and morale system were so well designed and balanced that I kept going back for more. The bosses were also fair, ranging from great to meh, and most of them at least had some spectacle. I really enjoyed the level design as well, as it really sucked me into the world building while I beat up baddies. The combat in this game was just so good though, that I can look past many of its flaws to call it the 18th best game this year. Number 17, Stay Out of the House. PS1 style horror games come along every so often, and while I'm not especially a horror fan, this one really caught my eye. The polygonal design and creepy atmosphere really grabbed my attention. It made me want to know more about what this game has to offer. Stuck in a house with a barbaric butcher, you have to escape. That's it. It's that simple. But the execution is far harder. With roaming grandma bots and security cameras, not to mention the killer himself, you have to figure out the patterns and make it out of this full house escape room. If you are a horror fan and haven't seen this game, I do suggest you check it out. It is very cleverly designed and it made a big impression on me. Number 16, Cocoon. I don't really know how to even describe Cocoon. It's a strange little puzzle adventure game that will leave you scratching your head at times. There is an Inception-esque twist to this game that sees you traverse through different colored orbs to work your way through levels. The twist is, you can also bring an orb into another orb, which you can then traverse. So you end up being in a world trying to solve layers of puzzles. It's simple and complicated all at the same time, and it was a great experience that I would recommend. This was a little game that just happened to drop on Game Pass and I gave it a shot, and it left a really long lasting impression on me that its runtime really shouldn't have. Number 15, Dredge. Part inventory management, part Lovecraftian horror fishing game, Dredge is one of the strangest concepts this year, and absolutely a great game. It all works. Sail around strange seas as you fish to make money, manage your inventory to fit as much as you can, and get back before dark. Strange things happen in the dark. You start to lose your sanity, fish start to transform, you start to see monsters and your ship gets attacked. The day-night cycle in Dredge is beautifully timed so that you have to make tough decisions every day for the sake of your fish and your sanity. Everything in Dredge is simple, from the controls to the gameplay to the graphics, but putting it all together is a brilliant and unique game that will creep you out just enough. And on top of all that, there's different endings depending on how much you explore. So you get out of this game what you put in. Dredge is a great experience for most gamers out there. Number 14, Remnant 2. Dark Souls, but with guns. Welcome to the world of Remnant. Tough levels, big bad bosses, and lots of guns and upgrades. Pick your class and figure out your build and be ready to take on hordes of tough enemies. As a fan of Souls games, this game is just different enough to really make me interested. I had a blast with this game, and its co-op functionality is pretty darn good. Taking down the baddies with a buddy or two was a great time that any Souls fan should give a try. There were some problems like some of the underwhelming bosses and some difficulty spikes that seemed a bit off, but the devs have been updating the game and adding content, so it's still a great time to jump into Remnant. A quick request before we go on: if you enjoy gaming content like these lists, game reviews, discussions, and more, then please consider subscribing to the channel. We are growing an awesome community here, all ready to enter gaming, so don't miss out. Number 13, HiFi Rush, the game you didn't know you needed. Shadow dropped by Microsoft earlier this year, HiFi Rush made an impact by showing the advantages of Game Pass and all the studio acquisitions Microsoft has made. HiFi Rush is an action rhythm game that is bright, colorful, and bouncing with energy. Literally bouncing, everything bounces with the beat. And you have to bounce with the beat too, as all of your actions have to take place in rhythm. It's not an overly long game, it's a game designed to be finished, but your time in this wonderful world is nothing short of mesmerizing. There are lovable characters and some great bosses, and every level is just alive with amazing animations. HiFi Rush is a joy to play. It's just such a fun game, and the soundtrack is killer. Every music lover should give it a shot. Number 12, Jedi Survivor. And this is where I can't believe I have some games so low. 2023 has been a stacked year for gaming. In number 12, I have Jedi Survivor. This is a great game and an excellent sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. It does everything a sequel should do, and Respawn stays on top of their form. It builds on its predecessor and introduces more. Just more of everything. More worlds to explore, more combat options, more stances, more. And it works really well. The expanded combat is still a blast, and the matured Cal Kestis is still a great protagonist. Jedi Survivor takes everything you loved about Fallen Order and improves upon it. The biggest problem with this game was performance at launch, as it seemed like it needed a little more time in the oven. Considering the version that you can play now versus the launch version, you may consider this game even higher on the list if you want to talk about the playable version now after all the patches. Number 11, Mario Wonder. And this is where I can start to feel the torches and pitchforks coming out. Just remember, this year is stacked with games. Mario Wonder is great, it's amazing, it's, dare I say, wonderful? This game is the result of a high-profile team being given the green light to take whatever time they need to lovingly craft a game that people will adore. And they nailed it. The levels are well designed and the challenge is fair for all ages. The badge system is a great way to introduce replayability or give the player an edge when they are struggling. And the Wonder Flowers really made it so that you never know what to expect. Are you gonna turn into a Goomba? Are the tubes gonna come alive? Are you gonna fly in space? You just never know. So, what's the downside? Well, there was just a bit too much filler for me. I completed this game, and there are just so many levels that don't seem to fit. They exist for the sake of existing. The park searching, the break times, even the badge challenges. There were just so many mini levels that I feel like detracted from the experience. All this said, Mario Wonder is an amazing game that's great for the whole family. Number 10, Final Fantasy XVI. Final Fantasy XVI may be one of the more controversial games on this list today. It had longtime fans of the series torn as it went for full-action gameplay, but for newcomers to the series, such as myself, this made it a great jumping-off point to see what the hype was all about, with the understanding, of course, that this isn't your typical Final Fantasy. Well-crafted characters, rich lore, and astonishing set pieces and cinematics, Final Fantasy XVI was like playing through a movie. Although it was light on RPG mechanics, especially when dealing with your loadout and party, there is still a lot to love. Straying from the turn-based mechanics may have made some unhappy, but the action-oriented combat is a blast. And not to mention the incredible score for this game. The soundtrack is no less than amazing. Final Fantasy XVI takes the number 10 spot on my list today. Number 9, Sea of Stars. Sabotage Studios has a real gem on their hands with Sea of Stars. A mix of Chrono Trigger with more active combat like Mario RPG, Sea of Stars is a lovingly crafted turn-based RPG with a gorgeous art style and lovable characters. The combat is fun, tactical, and never dull thanks to the timed inputs. The story is intriguing, although not the highlight, but the characters really made me care about what was going on in this strange world of celestial children. Sea of Stars was never a game I thought I would love. I thought I would give it a shot and just see how it was, but after playing the demo, I knew there was something special here and I had to experience the whole thing. And boy, I'm glad I did. This is one of the most emotional and amazing experiences this year, and if not for such a strong lineup this year, it could be even higher on this year's list. Number 8, Pikmin 4. The strangest real-time strategy game I've ever played, and it was a blast. The more I completed Pikmin 4, the more I was rewarded. There was always more game to play, more challenges or time trials. The levels were real and lived in, and it was fun to imagine these Pikmin in your own backyard collecting your things. The gameplay loop in Pikmin is just so satisfying. It has that loop of just one more time, just one more day, I'm gonna get it this time. And they even managed to add in a tower defense mode during the nighttime. The characters were all lovable and rescuing everyone felt rewarding. Ochi is the bestest boy, and I enjoyed my journey as a new recruit more than I ever thought possible. I never expected to enjoy Pikmin 4 as much as I did, but looking back on my year in gaming, it was one of the brightest moments that I never saw coming. Number 7, SpiderMan II. SpiderMan II is yet another fantastic sequel making this list. The beloved combat system from the first game in Miles Morales makes its triumphant return, with even more options this time around. The story surrounding the relationships between Peter, MJ, and Harry really up the emotional ante, and the main villains, Venom and Kraven the Hunter, are strong and vicious. For as much fun as I had with this game, I felt like the pacing was off, and I didn't get nearly as much Venom as I had hoped. Although playing as Venom for that one mission is one of the biggest power trips and one of the brightest moments in gaming this year. Spider-Man 2 is a great game with an amazing combat system and villains, but the story kinda let me down, especially when compared to the first game in the series. Number 6, Starfield. For some, a disappointment, for some, exceptional, for others still, a disaster. For me, Starfield is a great game with a ton of potential. I have heard all of the criticisms about loading screens and limited space travel and plenty more. These are valid, but in the greater scheme of things, I found Starfield to be incredibly enjoyable and replayable. It's classic Bethesda, just doing what they do best. An in-depth perk tree, amazing city building, branching conversations, it's all there. It's the same Bethesda of Elder Scrolls and Fallout, but with refined gunplay and a broader scope. There is a lot to love about Starfield. Of course, being an exclusive makes it have its fair share of enemies, but being a fan of video games, no matter the platform, Starfield is a great game. It's not perfect, and it's not the top of this year, as some may have hoped or expected, but it will no doubt have its fans for years to come. Number 5, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom puts player ingenuity first and foremost. The player decides how to solve each puzzle and how to tackle each combat situation, more than most other games. It balances a fine line between letting players go and giving them enough to figure out their own solutions to their problems. No doubt a great game, but there are some problems. To me, it just wasn't differentiated enough from Breath of the Wild, and so it lost some of its impact due to reused assets. The wow factor just wasn't there this time around, outside of the building mechanic. The building mechanic is perfect, and is how physics-based building games should always be from here on out. It is the example to follow, and it was fun going around Hyrule again, but it was almost the same Hyrule, this time with 2 extra layers, one above and one below. This is a great game, and there's no denying it, but it just wasn't different enough from its predecessor for me to put it higher on the list. Number 4, Lies of P. Lies of P is the closest we may ever get to Bloodborne 2, and it is incredible that those comparisons can even be made. Lies of P is the devs' first attempt at a Souls game, and as a Souls fan, they nailed it. Brutal, fast-paced combat, great and challenging bosses, a variety of builds and replayability, set in a dystopian world. I can gush on and on about Lies of P. I have been looking forward to this game for years since its first trailer, and it didn't disappoint. Perfect parries feel amazing, and fatal attacks are vicious as they should be. The world building and lore based on the story of Pinocchio is so well done. It pays homage to the original tale, but adds its own twists. Lies of P exceeded my expectations, and became possibly the best Souls game not made by FromSoft ever. Number 3, Resident Evil 4 Remake. How do you take one of the most beloved survival horror games of all time and remake it so that it doesn't lose that spark? Well, Capcom have managed to do just that. Resident Evil 4 Remake recaptures the magic of the original and adds much needed improvements to make it a smoother experience. Ashley is a better character this time around, and Leon is as likable as ever. Their relationship is so much more flushed out in this game. The combat is amazing, and each of the 3 main areas are creepy in their own right. The bosses as well deserve a mention for being a lot of fun and being some of the highlights of the game. I debated for a while whether I wanted to put a remake on the list, but this game absolutely deserved it, and it takes the bronze medal this year. Number 2, Allan Wake 2. Even though there is only one place apart, I would consider there to be a pretty big gap between spots 2 and 3 on this list. 13 years we had to wait for Allan Wake 2 since the original. 13 years Allan Wake was trapped in the darkness. In the meantime, we got Control, another excellent Remedy title. Allan Wake 2 is the most Remedy game out there. They took their expanded universe and with Sam Lake at the helm, said, let's do our thing. The result is an incredible survival horror experience with amazing top-notch writing and exhilarating gameplay. I completed this game and could not get enough of it. Every collectible, every TV show, everything. The writing, characterization, the twists and turns, never knowing what was coming next. Saga's mind palace and Alan's story writing mechanics. This game has it all, and it all fits so well into the overarching story that Remedy is creating. The soundtrack is mesmerizing, and the set pieces are incredible. Remedy has done something special here, and Allan Wake 2 just narrowly missed out on the top spot. Any other year and it may take gold, but this year it's taking the silver. Number 1, Baldurs Gate 3. What can be said about Baldurs Gate 3 that hasn't been said already? Amazing storytelling and the most in-depth characterization and RPG mechanics this year, along with some of the best turn-based combat that I have ever had the pleasure of experiencing. The organic freedom to do whatever you want, interact with what you want, talk to who you want. This game lets you be you in a way that very few games can. It is one of the most RPG games ever. Your choices matter, your relationships matter, the environment is yours to interact with, and your character is yours to build. Manage your party in incredible detail and experience the absolute game of the year. Baldurs Gate 3 is the gamer's game. It is the most game of the year. It does it all, and it is not just one of the best games this year, but is one of the best games ever made. And there you have it. Those are my picks for the top 20 games this year. This is just my opinion based on the games that I have personally played, so be sure to let me know your picks down in the comments below. If you want more in-game content, I have left video links in the description and top pinned comment for content over the games in this list. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking the video and subscribing to help me out, and I'll see you nerds on the next one. Peace. Thank you for watching, right here on In-Game. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content.